you very much for that. Brilliant. So let's get cracking. So welcome to Tactical Ticketing for Digital Events. My name's James. Now I'll be manning the chat and the Q&A facility today. We'll be recording this webinar, so don't worry about making too many notes because you can watch it back at any time in the future. So what we'll be doing is uploading it to our YouTube channel on the website next week, and we'll send you, the attendees, a list for a link for all that for the webinar and the extra resources that Nick has put together. If you have any questions for Nick, please use the Q&A facility. So we're using the chat at the moment, but use the Q&A facility for that so that we can see the questions as they come through. And if you like some of the questions that are being asked by others, use the thumbs up button and then they'll go higher, and then we'll prioritize those ones as well. So I'm going to be adding bits into the chat today, but we've also, this event is also being live captioned. And if you'd like to turn the captions on, it's been done by the lovely Amanda. Again, down at the bottom of the screen, and it only works on the Zoom app. If you're using the browser version, this won't work. But if you're using the Zoom app, down at the bottom, there's a little CC button. Press that, and you can turn the live captions on. So I'm going to start adding stuff to the chat, but here we go. I'm going to pass you over to the wonderful Nick.
Hi, James. Thank you very, very much for that introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Kime. I am the Tech Champion for Ticketing and CRM at the Digital Culture Network. And you're a very special bunch of people. This is my last public engagement for the Digital Culture Network. I am unfortunately moving on to pastures new. I'll be moving on to the great team at Cog Design, who's a design agency for arts and culture. So please feel free to reach out when I'm there from next week. And I wanted to take this opportunity to bring in my fantastic replacement, who is Phil. If you want to pop on, Phil, so we can introduce you properly.
Hello.
Even. Hello. Tell us a bit about yourself, Phil.
So yes, I have joined the Digital Culture Network from the wonderful world of cloud-based ticketing. Most recently, I was working for Spectrix, one of the leading providers of ticketing and CRM for the arts. I was actually working over in their New York office. So as you can imagine, I have a wealth of experience of lots of different ways of using CRM in the arts from both sides of the ocean. I'm going to be based up in the Arts Council's Leeds office. So when I'm not online chatting about ticketing, I will also be out and about in the Yorkshire region and more generally across the north.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Phil. So Phil will be managing all the follow-on leads and questions from today's session. So feel free to reach out if you want to chat further about the content that we've discussed today, and Phil will be more than happy to help you with that.
Always more than happy to talk about ticketing, especially tactical ticketing.
Tactical ticketing. Thanks, Phil. Right, on to today's session. I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to who we are. If by chance you don't know who we are the Digital Culture Network. We are a 2-year funded initiative. Well, we've been extended now past the 2 years, but we're here to help develop arts and culture's digital skills. You can find more information about us by heading to the Digital Culture Network website, which you can see the address there. And on there we've got jam-packed full of resources and guides and articles. And also you can get in touch with us for free one-to-one support if you are an ACE funded organization, or you would typically be funded by ACE. So please feel free to head to that website, take a read of those articles, and get in touch with us if you'd like some one-to-one support for absolutely free. We've had a fantastic webinar series over the last year. We record all of our sessions and they are available for you to watch back. So you can head to the Knowledge Hub on our website and watch any of our sessions that we've done over the last year back. So please feel free to head to there. We've got a great events program coming up. We should hopefully be announcing that in the next month or so. And you can head to our events section and get registered again for any of our future events. So please pop to the website. If you've opted to be contacted by a tech champion on the registration process, we'll be in touch with you in the next week to chat to you about how we can help support you. But if you would like to speak to us, you can get in touch with us. You can drop us an email, digitalnetwork@artscouncil.org.uk, or head to the website. We are very active on Twitter and we want to know how you've been getting on and if you're enjoying these sessions. So please tweet us, let us know if you're enjoying the content that we're putting out there, and that's at ace_DCN. Fantastic. There we go. That's the quick introduction to the Digital Culture Network. And we're going to move on to today's content. So here's a bit of a breakdown of what we're going to be discussing today. So obviously the main point there, we're looking at ticketing tactics for online events. And we'll be looking at pricing models. I'm just giving you a quick recap of all the kind of pricing models that I'm seeing people use in the sector at the moment. So we'll be going through those. Some digital trends that I'm seeing in the marketing and the measuring of online events. We'll finish up with a quick tech roundup. We'll show you what all the kind of like organizations are using to live stream, to put on demand, how they're hosting their events. We're going to go through a bit of a tech roundup at the end, and then followed by a Q&A. So as James said, if you've got any questions throughout, pop them in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get round to them at the end of today's session. So brilliant, let's dive in. So before we start with any tactics or we start with sort of any actions, we first need to think about what are our objectives and maybe asking ourselves this question: what do we want from our digital events program? And these objectives or this mission that you might set yourself could be different for each online event you do, or it could be different for a series of online events. But it's really important that you check back in with yourself and have a think, what do I actually want to achieve with this digital event that I'm putting on? And you can think about that in a couple of ways. You can think about it, you know, for us as an organization, what could be those key objectives that I'm wanting it to achieve? And these could be a few of them. It could be something like, you know, engaging our current audiences. So thinking about the people that we're currently engaging with, how can I give them content? How can I keep them still engaged with us as an organization? It could be looking at how do I reach new audiences? You know, we're now trying to attract more people and get them still interested in our venue, still interested in our organization. How can I design a series of events that helps me reach new people, new demographics? Could be about enhancing your reputation. It could be about thinking, you know, we're well known for doing these sorts of events, these physical events or whatever that might be, but we want to, you know, reach further. We want to reach a new digital audience and enhance our reputation as being a producer of great events. Or it could just be about revenue. This could be another revenue stream that you're wanting to try to access, and that could be through actual ticket revenue, or it could be through donations or something like that. So those are just a few examples of what it could mean to you as an organization. And then thinking about it for the audience, what do I want it to do for them? And again, these could be a few of those examples. So it could be thinking about that I want it to be value for money for them. I want this to be a cheaper alternative than that of maybe a physical event or something that could be quite expensive. This could be something fairly easy and quick for them to be able to access and for it to be affordable for them. And then easy to access. So thinking about something that's not overly convoluted with lots of complicated tech and links and finding this sort of information and how do I access this online event. I want that process to be nice and smooth for them, so that people maybe that don't have the don't have lots of confidence in their technical ability or anything like that, they can really easily access this online events program. Thinking about new experiences for them. So this isn't just a substitute because we can't do physical events. Actually, this experience in itself is new, and it is a good experience for them to be able to kind of pay money for and attend. And again, in conjunction with that, thinking that something's valuable. It's not as someone holding a camera at the back of the theatre trying to do a shaky live stream. This is actually a valuable event, and that has been produced and it's enjoyable, and that people want to pay money for. So having a think about what are those kind of objectives for the digital events program for our audience. And you may have a whole host of other kind of objectives and things that are important to you as an organization, but it is just vital that maybe before you start programming, before you start putting things actually on sale, that we start to think about what are our objectives for this season, and that should help you then determine your next actions. And I think it's really easy to fall into this trap of assuming that, you know, all of our digital audiences are this like anonymous blob of people just consuming our online events program. And just because we don't see them physically, it doesn't mean that they aren't any less diverse than our in-person audiences. You know, they're going to have different needs from us as a venue or as an organization. They're going to have different motivations for attending, and differing confidence levels in experiencing art. You know, if you're putting on a piece of opera, you know, yes, you'll get your traditional opera goers, but actually, do I want to attract people that maybe don't know if this is for them, or, you know, that don't have that much confidence in attending something? So your online audiences are just as diverse, and they all have these different sorts of motivations for wanting to attend. And these could be anything like, you know, accessibility. It could be about thinking, you know, how easy is this to access? Is there going to be captions? Is there going to be sign language or something like that? Is there going to be able to access this and really be able to enjoy the event? And again, like I said earlier about, is it overly technical, and can they easily access it? So you've got to think about those sorts of considerations for people. Again, price, you know, you put a lot of effort and work into your pricing strategy for your traditional events or in-person events, and you're factoring in lots of different things. Close to the stage, further away, am I thinking about offers? Am I thinking about concessionary rates and things like that? And that sometimes that gets lost for your online events, and it's either just, oh, we'll just do a flat rate, or it's you know, free, or it's whatever. Are we thinking about those different considerations that people can afford, different prices, and are we, you know, adhering to that kind of usual tactics that you would do around your physical events? Thinking for that commitment to attend, I feel like for online events, that commitment level is really low, because they don't have to leave the house, they don't have to actually do anything. And if something is low cost or free, then that might not inspire commitment from them to A, book early, or B, to even turn up at all. So how can we inspire and generate commitment from our audience that this is, you know, a hot ticket, it's a great event, they need to book in early, and they need to come and watch this because it's this amazing, valuable experience. So thinking about how we can inspire commitment. And digital literacy, this is so important at the moment, you know, thinking about what type of devices can people enjoy this event on. If they've only got a tablet, if they've only got a mobile phone, is that suitable for people? Do they have confidence in their sort of ability to be able to navigate this tech world? I know in our industry, we're very, very used to accessing things via Zoom, lots of webinars, meetings, and things like that over the last year, but there's still a good portion of the population that hasn't had to have done that in the last year. And so they still could have a lack of confidence around their digital literacy, and or even just access to the tech in the first place. So are we really thinking about that element as well when we're putting on these events and selling them? So what you want to do is you want to start thinking about those different groups of online audiences and what their needs and requirements might be. And you need to ensure that this information surrounding the event is available to your bookers. It's really easy for them to understand, gives them the confidence in handing over their money for this online experience. And I think that's far more prevalent for online events than it would be for your physical events, because there is no friendly usher, box office staff member there at 7:30 to kind of assist them in getting them into the space and making sure that they've got their ticket and all of that, kind of those last minute questions and panic that we've all experienced down at the box office. There is no one there in their house, so it's them sitting there in front of the computer for 7:30 and going, oh my God, I can't find the link, I can't find this information, what do I do? So I think all of that is super heightened. So thinking about all of these different things is super important to make sure that the customers and bookers have access to all of this information to make that process really smooth for them. And I'd really just review all of your comms channels and opportunities to provide your audience member with that information. So thinking about your automated emails that get sent out from your ticketing system, think about marketing emails that you're sending out, think about the actual tickets themselves, what kind of information is going out on there, and thinking about those online event pages. That really is going to be the central hub of people being able to find out what this event is, how good it is, how much it is, how do I access it, and getting them on to purchase a ticket. So now I wanted to go through some of those things in a little bit more detail and go through some fantastic sector examples where I think organizations are doing it really well. So if we think about the performance itself, what is the actual event going to be? Are we defining what that experience is? Are we saying this is what you're going to get? You're going to be able to go in, there's going to be this exclusive performance of X, or you're coming to this workshop and it's an interactive session, you have direct access to this fantastic speaker, or whatever that might be. Are you defining what that is? Because someone might not know, they might think it's an old past recording of something, or that it's not interactive, they don't get to kind of ask questions, or whatever that experience might be. If you're defining what that experience is and communicating that, then that's going to be the best bet in being able to get someone to buy a ticket and create that sense of exclusivity. I feel like we've probably got this opinion that, oh yeah, because you don't usually have capacities on live streams, or you don't have a capacity you know, on certain webinar settings, or whatever that might be, how can we still create a sense of exclusivity? How can we still say, well, you need to be able to get a ticket because we're going to sell out, or whatever that might be for you as an organization, but thinking about how can I create that sense of exclusivity and inspire commitment for someone to purchase a ticket. And communicate the why. I think this is super important. Thinking about, why is this actually event being programmed in this way? Is it that it is just a substitute because we can't do an online event, or is it been created because actually it gives us the option to create this very kind of like different experience, or a new experience for you? And I think that is really well communicated with these guys at the Soho Theatre. So during the pandemic, they were doing these fantastic sessions called the Soho Socials. And all that was them setting up a Zoom room and playing a pre-recorded version of an event that happened or been recorded at the Soho Theatre previously. But what they would do is they would invite you in, everyone could have their cameras on, and everyone could talk to each other, chat, etc. And then you would have someone there from the venue that would do a bit of an introduction about the piece. And then afterwards there would be a Q&A. And it was just sort of trying to replicate that feeling of being, you know, with other people and being able to watch something together, discuss it together as you would do in the bar, you know, after the event. So it was a really nice touch, and I think they've done really well in communicating that on the event pages. You know, big bold letters there saying, you know, missing the feeling of spending an evening watching a great show with a crowd. They've identified that why they're doing it, and are making sure that that's on there, and that kind of allows me to justify why I might pay £10 for that experience than just watching a rental version of the pre-recorded film itself. So I think that that's a really nice tactic. Next, looking at the venue. So thinking about branding your online venue, I think is really important. I've seen a lot of organizations do this really well, where they've kind of created that space, or they've created this online brand where people can go and visit. They know there's maybe there's pre-recorded content on there, maybe there's live streams coming up and new events that they can really access. And I think by putting a dedicated section on your website as well to kind of for people to gravitate to, I think that works super well. You know, I mentioned earlier about that actually now you might be communicating to a bigger stage, because you might be now advertising your events to people that could have never actually come to your venue in the first place. And so if you're driving traffic to your website through marketing, and you've got those sort of maybe in-person events mixed in with your online events as well, and there's no dedicated page to kind of just digital only, then that might cause a bit of like friction in someone being able to find what they can come and see, and make sure it's nice and clear. So maybe thinking about creating a dedicated section on your website which is just for your kind of like on-demand, pre-recorded or live stream events. And think about how that outputs to tickets and emails. So if you set your venues up in your ticketing system, obviously you give them sort of names, and they might be output to e-tickets or physical tickets. Have a think about, is that clear when that's being sent out to someone, that it's not in the physical space and that it's in your online, you know, that it's in the digital space instead? So just have a think about all of those areas of outputs to make sure it's nice and clear. It is kind of advertising and you know, instilling the idea of your digital brand that you might have set up, and just make sure that that's being sort of output absolutely everywhere that it goes. And an example of people doing that really well, obviously the English National Ballet, they've got this on-demand section on their website, and obviously they've got a lot of tech behind this in terms of creating their on-demand space, but I actually still think this works really well, even if you're not setting up something similar to them. But you can create that sort of on-demand area, and that could just be uploaded with previous YouTube clips, or events for them to sign up to, but it's really nice that it kind of separates that out from their touring stuff and their their physical stuff as well. So it kind of gives that nice sort of space. If I can't make it to an event, or I don't feel confident or safe in actually attending physical events at the moment, I know that there's a page I can go to on their website and find lots of events that I can enjoy now from home. So I think that that works really well. And thinking about the purchase, so I think defining what a digital ticket actually is, what does this actually get them? And it might sound really obvious to you as an events organizer, but actually to someone else, it might not make sense to them that's sort of new to this. What am I actually going to get with this ticket? What does it do? And again, that sort of links into the experience sort of side that we were talking about earlier. And I've seen a few organizations do this, maybe thinking about communicating the household price, because you might be charging £20, say, for a ticket to a live stream event or a performance, and that might be per device. So that could be for a group of 4 or 5 people could go to that event and watch that, but they might, if they look at it and think, oh, £20 a ticket, oh, that seems a little steep potentially, but because maybe you haven't broken it down and said, this is for up to 4 people, and breaking down the price per person would actually be a lot cheaper than if they all went out to the theatre together as a big group. So maybe thinking about, if you're communicating the price and it is a fixed price or something like that, communicating what that means. This is per device, and you can have unlimited people around it, or 4 people, depending on what kind of restrictions you want to put in place. And draw attention to upsells. So, just because it's a digital or online event doesn't mean we still can't do upsells. So making sure that that's super clear about ways that people can pay more and get a better experience or a different experience. And I'll come to that a little bit later on when I talk about the pricing models. And a really lovely example here is by the Royal Shakespeare Company, and they put on an online event called Dream. And here's the 2 different types of tickets that you can get. And again, that was a very interactive and tech-heavy event, a fantastic immersive experience. But I just think how they've broken down the pricing here is really nice. It's really nice and clear, and anyone can really adapt something similar to this. So obviously they had a free ticket, which was just audience, and then they had audience plus, and you've got the lovely little a checklist there of what things were included within the free ticket and what was the paid one. And obviously the big difference that set the Audience Plus apart was the fact that it had a level of interactivity. So you could influence the story in some way by paying for that extra one. And if you went for the free ticket, you were just an observer. So you'd just sit and watch it back. I just think that's a really nice way for them to be able to justify what the free ticket is versus what the paid. So if you are doing some sort of uplift or different levels of experience, think about how you might want to set that out and encourage people to go for the higher ticket. And then thinking about access. So really just lay out the access process. Again, we might just become a bit confident with Zoom, and that you'll get a link and this is how you get access to it, etc., etc. But actually for a lot of other people, that process isn't so clear for them and they don't really know. So have a think about laying out the access process. What will happen? You will receive a link at X time. Use that link. Here's, if you've got login details, if you need to do something like that, but just make sure that's super clear and super accessible for people to access, to be able to read and be able to go to be able to do that to attend the event. Define the rules and expectations. So especially this works really well if you are doing a sort of interactive event. So if it's a workshop or a class of some sort, and there might be some level of interactivity or things like that. Have a think about just defining those rules and expectations that you're expecting from people when they attend the event. So if it's things like, your microphone is going to be muted when you come in. If you want to talk, then you can, click the raise your hand button or use the chat to introduce yourself, etc., etc. And what that will do is that if someone is feeling a little bit insecure about attending, or they've got low confidence in, oh God, I don't know what to expect when I go on this thing, what's going to happen, who's going to be on there, it gives them some reassurance that everyone that's entering that Zoom room has all been given the same sort of information. And so that it just sets a level of expectations of what the behavior sort of is, and that you will have procedures in place to manage any behavior that's not acceptable. And I think this works really well, especially around safeguarding for children, especially if you're a family event or a kids event online. And just provide that simple to understand tech assistance. Again, it's trying not to overcomplicate things and make sure that that is easily accessed for people. Again, there might be a lack of confidence there in asking questions that they might think are silly about what type of devices that they can do, or if we've come into the event now. If I was the only member of the DCN team on this webinar right now, and someone had tech issues and they couldn't access, I wouldn't be able to address those. I wouldn't be able to solve them because I'm kind of busy presenting. So that's why we always have a buddy with us to make sure that they can deal with any tech issues. So always make sure you have a forum for people to be able to come in, ask questions, get things solved, and that there's kind of no judgment on that. So yeah, I think that is really important. And a great example here was from Shakespeare's Globe. And like I said, they were doing a family event. So there would be kids on camera and with parents, etc. So they kind of provided this important information there, rules and expectations of what they would do, when the Zoom room was going to be closed, some kind of safeguarding things to make sure that children were supervised at all times during that event. So it just allows that kind of, we're all going to sort of set off on the right foot with things like that. And then finally, to end this section, I just thought we'd go through some top tips for communication. So be really consistent with your pre-event emails. I think that this is far more prevalent, like I said earlier, for online events than it is for physical events. You might send something out 48 hours before, here's parking, here's how you get to the bar, or whatever that might be, in a pre-event email. But make sure that you're doing things consistently for your online events. So you might send one out straight away, which has got the Zoom link on, but this could be months ahead of an event, and it's very easy for someone to have deleted that, filed it away, can't access it, and then it's 10 minutes before and they're like, oh my God, where's that link? I can't find it. So thinking about how can I create consistent communication, that information is always there and easy for them to find. So there's none of that scramble in the last sort of half an hour before an event. And hopefully you would have seen that from the emails that we send out, and that's an example of that on the right. Maybe think about downloadable resources. If you think back to the digital literacy conversation, and thinking about, do I feel like maybe some of the audiences that I'm trying to reach are people maybe from a certain demographic or geographical area, and I know that potentially they don't have the access to tech there, or certain types of tech to experience it, or if they do they know how to use them, etc. So you've got all of those sort of things to consider. So you could look at maybe partnering with a local digital hub or something like that could help produce some kind of like easy to access downloadable resources, which is things about testing your Wi-Fi, or how to use tablets, or how to use Zoom, or whatever it might be, depending on the requirements that you have. But there could be something there that you could give people for them to easily access, and stop all of the repeat of those same questions that might be coming to your box office team. You could do something like some, how-to videos or some drop-in sessions. You could film something with your box office staff, or you could create an animation or something like that, which just goes through a simple step-by-step process of how they might access that online event. Or you could create some, tech drop-in sessions or things like that, so that your staff are available to answer questions if they've gone, all right, I've got this old Samsung tablet or whatever, is this going to be suitable? Hey, let's do a test now and make sure that works absolutely fine. So there could be kind of just a nice elements there where you create that really nice safe space for people to ask questions, so that they really enjoy the event, get more confident in using the tech, and then next time you're doing an event, they'll be far more kind of equipped to be able to dive in and enjoy it without the same level of help. And you could think about doing some FAQs, and a lot of people put their kind of standard FAQs all in there about the booking and the box office and all of that kind of stuff, and maybe they'll put some digital stuff in there as well. But have a think about maybe just putting some maybe separate or specific digital only ones there, that they can easily access from the booking page or during the booking path, so they can just get rid of any of those niggling questions that they might have, so that they can go ahead and convert into that transaction. Great. So that's the first section there, which was looking at all the ticketing tactics for online events. And now I wanted to move into looking at pricing models. I know this is a big question for everyone at the moment about wondering what they should be charging and what sort of pricing models they might want to implement for their online events. So I will sound like an absolute broken record, but please do start off with your objectives. So that will really help shape the kind of next strategic elements when looking at price. So thinking about, am I trying to provide great content for our members or our current audiences? So I might want to keep that low, or I might want to include those events within membership benefits or things like that. Am I trying to generate revenue? I want this to be a moneymaker for me, or somewhere that, an extra revenue stream we can tap into. So that might dictate what sort of pricing strategy that you do. So please do revisit those objectives that you've kind of set out and think about how pricing might slot in with those. So I wanted to go through just some templates that I'm seeing being used within the sector, and this is just from me attending events, researching events, and seeing how different organizations are pricing their digital events. So let's go through them. So these top ones on here, you probably will be more familiar with. So thinking about, maybe it's a free event, but there's some sort of sign up process. It's a free ticket registration that I'm doing, or maybe you put it behind an email sign up paywall or something like that. So you'll have experienced that. Again, free ticket with donation asset probably was the most popular choice over the last year during the pandemic. And then starting to see this a lot more, that kind of pay what you feel sort of model, of people being able to just kind of give whatever they kind of feel like doing. Now, I speak to a lot of people that are kind of straddling between those two sort of options at the moment and not really sure what to do, because obviously, as you probably will have experienced, if you were doing free events but with a donation ask, that might have worked really well at the beginning of the pandemic. But as you probably experienced over this period of time, the donation and the goodwill probably has started to dwindle ever so slightly. So you might now be on the cusp of saying, what do I do? I want to keep doing these events, but obviously I need to start charging something. So kind of what do I do with that? So I'm just going to break down those differences between those two about thinking about donation ask and pay what you feel. So if I'm doing a donation, that implies that there's an optional action. I don't have to donate. This is just something if I want to do it. And the negative around that is that no, let me start off with the positive. Let's be optimistic about this. The positive about that is that if you'd just done it for free, you wouldn't have got any extra money. So there's an option to actually take revenue that you wouldn't have got before. And also people might be feeling very generous and give you more than what you would have maybe charged for it if that was an event. So that's the positive side of it. The negative side of it is that optional action, in the fact that maybe if you're doing a string of events and I've attended one already and I gave you a £5 for that one, I might then, when I go to the next one, think, oh, I've already donated, I don't need to do it again. So thinking about that kind of like optional implication that is on your customers. Whereas pay what you feel kind of inspires a bit more of a compulsory action. Pay what you feel. You don't have to pay lots, but you have to pay something. It kind of gives that sort of inclination that I have to give you something each time that I attend. So obviously the customer still has the option to give you absolutely nothing if they don't want to, and that option is still there for them. But by sort of saying pay what you feel per event, that is implying that you will still at least receive some revenue. So if you are kind of thinking about the donation element and that's not really working for you anymore, maybe then moving on to this pay what you feel payment model might just change the dynamic, maybe just change the conversation between you and the audience member, that they feel that they have to give you something, even if it's a low amount. And I think an organisation doing this fantastically well is Battersea Arts Centre. So please head to their website and have a little look. They've been doing pay what you feel or pay what you can for years, and they do that across all of their events. So if you want to see an example of how it's sort of embedded into their overall strategy, how they use it in comms, how they display it on their events pages, go and have a look, because they do it fantastically well. And they use Spectrix, and they've got this really fun little, I say fun, I'm easily entertained, but this sort of little slider that allows you to kind of pick what sort of level that you want to pay for something. So go and check them out, because I think they're a fantastic example of how to use Pay What You Feel. So that's that kind of like top tier that I'm sort of seeing a lot. Next, obviously, is fixed price. We saw the example earlier with Soho Theatre charging £10, keeping things very simple, maybe towards the lower end of the pricing scale, but fixed price, very, very easy to understand. The next one is Pay What You Can Afford. Now, this is different from Pay What You Can. Pay What You Can Afford is still giving you flexibility, but guaranteeing certain levels of revenue coming in. So I'm going to break that down a little bit more. So what it's doing there is giving the customer a select option of ticketing prices that they want to do. So you can see Royal Museums Greenwich on the left. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different prices that you can choose from. Now, all of those tickets offer the same experience. There's no difference in the actual experience that the customer will receive, the audience member will receive, but it's giving people that free will to be able to pay less if they can't afford to, or pay more if they can. And that's why a lot of organizations are using this method instead of fixed price. Because with fixed price, you might be coming in and it might be too expensive for someone if they don't have money at that sort of time. And also, if someone did have more money, or they did have the capability to give you more money, and you've only charged it at £10, you're limiting the maximum amount of revenue that you could generate for that event. So maybe looking at a Pay What You Can Afford type model would allow you to do that. Now, the behavioral science in it all is that most people will probably head down the middle, because they don't want to appear too cheap and they don't want to pay more than what they have to. So most likely you're going to go straight down the middle. So those sort of middle prices, make sure they're around what you would hopefully like to get for the event. But we've seen some fantastic examples. I did a similar presentation to a conference a few weeks ago, and there was loads of examples there of customers that really feel very connected to venues and organizations, and paying more out of connection, and wanting to still support the venue. So if they'd have done a fixed price, they probably wouldn't have earned as much on some of those tickets that were sold. So maybe experimenting with something like that. And I really like the way that the CBSO have done this on the right hand side. Now, I don't know if you can read the text, it might be a little bit small, but essentially what they're saying is that if you would usually come to the venue and you'd usually sit in the box, or you'd usually sit in the circle, or you'd usually sit in the stalls, please pay what you would sort of usually pay for this online event, no matter that the experience is completely the same for whichever one you go to, but it's just kind of like, relying on that goodwill from the customer to be able to kind of select, I would usually pay, for a £20 ticket or a £10 ticket, for example. So again, just have a think about, if you are going to do something like this, how do I communicate the strategy for it? How do I tell the story of why we're pricing things like this, and how we'll be being transparent? I think is a really nice touch. And then the next one is experience pay scale. So I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. So this allows you to justify those prices that are different. So, if you were doing a £5, £10 and a £15 ticket, each one of them would have a slightly different experience, as you would do for maybe a physical event. Some examples here. Again, it doesn't have to be anything overly kind of complicated. I've seen loads of different ones that you might just get the ticket, or you could do ticket and goodie bag or something like that. So there could be different ones here. There's an example here from the original online theatre company, and they've done 3 prices. You've got the standard for the live, which just watches the live stream, that's £20. You could do the supporter rate, which is at £40, and that includes the live stream, but you also get a digital program. And then they've got the premium price of £100. If someone wanted to pay that for this live stream, you get a signed script, a digital program, and you get the live stream as well. So they've kind of found a way to kind of justify these different pay scales to allow people to go in on what they want to experience for this event. And if having a digital program is worthwhile for them, then they might want to pay more. So have a think about what those sort of things could be for your event, and how could you justify allowing to charge more for something to get an extra valuable or premium experience. A really simple one here on for Tron Theatre. They just did the show only, which was one price, and they did show plus post-show talk. So again, allowing people to just experience things slightly different and potentially pay more. And to say with these guys, actually, I didn't mention this earlier, for Tron Theatre, when they were creating their online brand, their sort of on-demand area, they called it Tronline, which I thought was really nice, a nice sort of play on words, and allows them to kind of build that digital hub that's going to sit on their website, you know, between those two different kind of programs. So I thought that was really, really nice. And then the last one to kind of look at is that kind of traditional dynamic pricing that a lot of kind of theatres usually tend to operate, and that could be based on two factors. It could just be about you know, for demand. So we're going to sell 100 tickets at this sort of price. Once we've reached that, we're going to bump the prices up to X amount, and then we're going to sell 500 of those, and then we're going to up the price to that. So you could do it based on demand, or you could do it just based on a time factor. So you could say, right, we're going to release an early bird ticket for 4 weeks. Then at this date, prices are going to go up to this. That's the second release price. And then on this date, we're going to go up to the final release price, which is X amount. So what that does is really kind of does that exclusivity sort of thing that we were sort of speaking about, inspires commitment for people to be booking early, and kind of punishes the people for booking late or last minute with the most sort of expensive pricing. So there's kind of like different motivations for doing that, and I think if leveraging revenue is a key objective for you, then maybe looking at something like dynamic pricing might work for you. But again, I only tend to see this for those, you know, really high level events, ones that there is going to be a massive amount of demand for, and so people really want to book in early to kind of get that cheaper price. So there's kind of swings and roundabouts about whether you kind of want to implement a structure like that. And I suppose the big question that you might be having is, what should I charge? So again, broken record time, but please revisit your objectives. Again, whoever you're sort of you're wanting to attend, so considering your audience, am I trying to attract new people into the fold? Am I trying to entertain current people that we already have? Am I trying to reach a different demographic of people, et cetera, et cetera? Really just consider your audience, and if I'm pricing things too high, is that going to put people off? Or if I'm pricing things too cheaply, is that going to make it look like it's not a really fantastic experience? So have a think about who it is that you're doing and what that exclusivity is. Is this a perishable piece of content? Is it a watch it live and there's no chance to see it again, or is it going to be on demand, or is it something that's pre-recorded? Think about that exclusivity factor there, and think about how much people might want to pay for something depending on its level of exclusivity. And I would look at these two fantastic resources. You've got the COVID-19 sector benchmark, which was produced by TRG Arts and Purple 7. So fantastic figures there about sales across the sector during the pandemic. So I would take a look at that, and also look at the Culture Restart Toolkit. And that's done by Indigo, Baker Richards, and One Further. They've been doing some fantastic surveys at the moment. They've been working with a lot of arts organisations to survey their attendees, audience members. It's looking about the propensity to return, how confident people feel in going back into a live environment. And so looking at that sort of thing might help dictate, are we going to continue doing online events? How much are we going to charge for that? That might kind of give you a bit of a kind of a more rounded look on the industry as a whole. So please feel free to check those out. They're fantastic resources. And I will say that when we send you a recording and the presentation slides at some point over the next week, these links will be in there for you to access. Okay, so moving on to the next section, we've got digital trends for marketing and measuring. So I think the first sort of trend that I'm seeing around digital content, it's not all about the actual final product itself. So it's not just about thinking, oh, okay, we've produced this film or we've produced this event, here's the product, and then that's kind of it. What I'm seeing work really well is that actually all of the stuff that happens around the creative process of that is actually really interesting for consumers. They really like to look at all of this information. So this is a fantastic example by excuse me, Open Sky Theatre. And they've created some micro plays, but what they've done is created these little hubs on their website, which is full of behind the scenes videos, images, stuff about the stimulus for the piece, the cast, all the kind of production team. And it really allows someone to get a deeper connection with the final product itself, and allows you as an organization to be able to chop all of this up and use it as marketing collateral going forward. So I think thinking about how you can produce some great content around the actual final piece will really just enhance the richness of your marketing and of your overall delivery. A digital trend that I'm seeing around websites, writing a job description for your website. So pre-pandemic, you may have kind of had a bit of a set idea of what you wanted your website to do. You may did similar sort of events, similar sort of programs. So the actual setup of how you use your website probably was the same. But as we've seen over the last year, we've now needed our websites to be more agile and to be able to deal with the different kind of delivery methods that we've been having to do as a sector. So maybe thinking about, if you're going to do some development work on your website, think about how I could sit and set some clear expectations for it. What do I want it to achieve? And then for your content that you're putting out in there, thinking about defining some objectives. So what do I want this content to actually do? What's the outcome? What's the call to action? And making sure that you're setting and defining those objectives for your website content. And then the massive important piece in the puzzle is looking at measuring and going, right, if this content was produced because we wanted to get more email signups or we wanted to drive donations, what has it done? Has it managed to do that? And if it hasn't, thinking about how can I switch it up? How can I change it? So really thinking of putting that measuring section in place so that you can review and change. And a really great example is the English Touring Opera. They recently redesigned their website in the last 6 months, last year, and they don't sell their own tickets. So their objectives for their site are a lot more nuanced, a bit more bespoke, and they're not an e-commerce transaction necessarily. So go and have a look on their website and you can see that they've really designed really lovely rich content with really clear calls to action, and you can really see the work and the strategy that's gone into making this this website work for them and achieve what they want to achieve. So take a little look at them after this session. And then digital trends in data analytics, measuring the interactions with your online content. And I'm talking about going beyond just the views. So if I've maybe installed a YouTube clip or a Vimeo clip or something of pre-recorded content or a live event onto my website, I might be tracking the views and say, oh, we got so many thousand or so many hundred views on this particular piece. But how could I use tools like Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager to observe some different types of interactions? So yes, you've got views, you've also got play and pause. So thinking about actually of all the viewers, the users, sorry, that came onto that page, how many of those actually then went on to click play on the button? So what's that conversion rate from awareness through to actual consumption of the content? And then the progression metrics, which I think is really cool, and thinking about how far people went into the piece. Did they watch all of it? Did they watch half of it? And then I could be really super clever with thinking about how I could use follow-on ads and follow-on content that I could target through Google Ads to follow on people that have behaved in a certain type of way. And that could be, if they watched all of it, fantastic, let me advertise the next event in the series through some Google Ads or something like that. But measuring these sort of interactions could help you sort of change quite a lot of things. If you're thinking that actually we're putting this really long form piece of content on the website and hardly anyone is watching all the way to the end, starting to think about, well, is the length of this piece working really well for us? are there some key calls to action towards the end of the video, like donation asks or email sign up, or look at this next event in the series? There's hardly anyone getting to that section. So thinking about where could I put that so that more people see it. So these sorts of analytics work really well for being able to kind of get a bit more of a detailed picture of those interactions. And then lastly, looking at digital trends for email marketing. So really getting to know your subscribers. So if you've got physical events and you've got people coming, and you're using your ticketing system and segmentation tools potentially to really look at who your subscribers are, how they're reacting, and how they're responding to your mail outs. If you've done a whole set of online work that is potentially free or it's low cost, but these people live really far away, I still want to get them signed on to my newsletter, but and I want to get to know them. I want to get to know what they're interested in so I could market to them. But what I don't want to be doing is messaging them with unnecessary content. So if they have identified themselves as being a digital only audience, or something like that, then and they're interested in online content or blogs or articles, etc., then I could use that as part of my segmentation process and know that I'm not going to be emailing them about, oh, we've got some last minute £10 tickets for tomorrow night's show, so that they're not turned off from that relationship, and actually you're sending them stuff that they can consume whilst at home. So your online blogs or articles, like I said, and future digital events. And what I would do is head to litmus.com. They've got some great examples of preference centers that you can set up on MailChimp or .digital or whatever email marketing platform that you're using, to look at kind of more like strategic look at email preference centers. So take a look at litmus.com for that. Our email marketing tech champion Peggy has also done some great webinars all about email marketing segmentation, and she's going to be bringing out one about automations, which will be absolutely fantastic. So please head to our website and look about how you can access those events as well. So that's the digital trends that I'm seeing. I'm going to finish up with a quick tech roundup before we head into the Q&A. So if you do have any questions, make sure you pop them into the Q&A feature, and we'll get around to them very quickly at the end of today's session. So I wanted to go through some just cool bits of tech that I'm seeing out there in the market at the moment. So the first is about a streaming platform, and this is called Ticketco, Ticketco Media Services. They are a live streaming platform, an on-demand platform that you can upload pre-recorded content to and allow people to rent or purchase that event for a fixed amount. Or you could host your live stream through there as well. So you could do live shows as well as pre-recorded stuff. And it's a great little system. They charge only a commission per ticket sold. So there's no kind of like flat fees or committed fees for them at all. It is just what you sell. And they've recently done an integration with Spectrix. So you would sell your tickets through Ticketco, but that then can sync into Spectrix. So all the data about the purchase and the customer actually ends up into your Spectrix database as well, which I think is a nice touch. Or if you're not using a ticketing system to that level, then you can just ticket everything through Ticketco as well. So I think that that's a really nifty little tool. Vimeo OTT works kind of very similar to Ticketco, but this is what a lot of the larger organizations are doing. That is from English National Ballet that are using that for their on-demand section. These guys are a little bit more expensive, and I think there are also conversion charges because obviously it's an American company. So any revenue that you do sell, I think you have to pay for that to be converted into pounds. But in terms of the system itself, very robust, very easy to use, and customers are very familiar with this live streaming platform, can easily watch it on their telly, on their smartphone, etc. So I think that if you're looking for something really robust, then Vimeo OTT works really well. And then what I'm seeing really is with the value, if you're doing something that's live streamed, obviously you're not wanting, if you're doing something via Zoom, or if you're doing something on YouTube Live or something like that, and thinking about all of these links can be really easily shared, especially for events which are quite exclusive, or that there's a bit of a charge involved with those. So what I'm starting to see now is those ones that can be integrated with ticketing platforms themselves. So just like Ticketco, COG, Cog Player is integrated with Spectrix. Now, all of your ticketing purchase actually goes on in Spectrix itself, and then they get direct access to a certain pre-recorded content or a live stream through Cog Player, which you bolt on to your Spectrix system. And then I'm seeing actual ticketing providers build those sort of features in. So TicketSolve have built their own live streaming on demand sort of feature actually directly within the ticketing system. So if you're looking to invest in a new ticketing system and this is going to be important for you, have a think about what other platforms might integrate, or what features do they already come with on the actual system itself. And then the last one that I was just going to show you was this really great tool called We Show Up. And this is basically a pay what you feel, pay what you can type of model, but it just gives it a more kind of like robust method of being able to do it. So you can, as a customer, you can buy a ticket for an event or for a deposit or something like that, or you can just register for free. They go and see the event, and then this system will either text them or send them an email with a link which says, you know, what did you think of the event, and pay what you think it's worth. So whilst you could do that with another ticketing system, you could, you know, send them a link afterwards, etc. But it's more of a kind of shoehorn or ad hoc. This is actually a system that is dedicated to facilitating that sort of payment model. So take a little look at them. We Show Up. I think it is quite interesting. And then just before I finish up, if you want to know more about techniques and things for live streaming and looking at if you're hosting your own online events, workshops and trainings, we produce some really great webinars that we did recently. James did a fantastic one on delivering these interactive online training and workshops. So he goes through a lot of the tech and the strategy involved with that. And then Dean, our content tech champion, did a Getting Started with Live Stream, where he talks a lot about equipment and live streaming platforms. So please head to Digital Culture Network website and you can watch those webinars back. Fantastic. There we go. So that's it from the content today. And James, we're going to move on to a Q&A if you've got any questions from the audience.
Hello, that was wonderful. Thank you, Nick. Yeah, there's one in the Q&A that's we've said we've answered, but we've not. But there's been a nice bit of discussion there. So it's from Christiane. And she asked, do you have any examples of a good access process to send via email for Zoom? So that kind of stuff in advance for people to actually get set up and get going with it. So Christiane says they've tried a number of ways, but regularly seem to have teachers who struggle to actually access the events once they get sent. So do you recommend sending the link with the ID, the password, or send both? You know, is there a best practice way?
Yeah, I think it can be quite tricky. I would say that I don't think that the automated emails that are generated from Zoom are very helpful / very clear. So that's what we found. We could use a setting for Zoom to send out those automated kind of emails with all of those information on, but we don't do that, and we actually construct an email directly in Eventbrite to make that more clear. So we found that tends to work better. The biggest learning curve for us, I think, that we found is that so many people access Zoom in different ways. So you have the app, you have it via your browser, and you also have the mobile app. And the annoying thing is that all three of them have different levels of functionality, different ways for things to work, and some features aren't available in certain things. So what I would do is go through each of those different ways and really get to know the kind of foibles of the different kind of thing and what can and can't be done and how to fix things. So you could create a longer form FAQ section that you could link through in an email, or just make sure that if you're saying, actually, we recommend that you go and download X, then this is the best experience that you will get. So I think it is tricky, and there's no kind of like magic answer with it, but I would just equip yourself with as much of the kind of the issues and the annoying niggles of Zoom.
Yeah, and it might be worth like recording like a little how-to that you send to them in advance, because I know we've mentioned about doing practice events, but they are time-consuming, aren't they, to do it? So maybe like a recording of like, this is how we do it. This is what you will need to do at your end. Spend half an hour recording that, and then you can just use that for
send that out.
Yeah, watch that first. And then So I got another question from Nick. So it says, "Hi Nick, great presentation. Any other tips to motivate early bookers booking beyond dynamic pricing?"
Yeah, I think that the dynamic pricing is obviously a really great one. It's a kind of tried and tested method, especially with physical events, early bird rates, etc., and things like that. Have a think about creating that exclusivity. So thinking about we've only got a limited amount for this. This is going to be a really hot event. We know it's going to sell out. We're doing a limited capacity on this to try and create this special experience, so it will sell out. So even if that's a bit of a fib, that could just be a nice tactic in order to kind of inspire someone to kind of get booked on early because they're like, oh, I don't want to do this one. So it's all about your comms, and it's all about how you can create that fear of missing out, creating that exclusivity, and thinking about benefits. So you could do something like the first 200 people or the first 50 people to register for this will get X. They'll get something. Have a think about what those certain uplifts that you could do, as well as maybe doing early bird rates and those sort of traditional type of things.
Brilliant, great. And then we've got a question from Helen. So have we done, I suppose it's we've not done it specifically, but have you experienced any organizations that have done any blended stuff where it's physical and online at the same time? And if that's possible, is there a platform that enables that?
Yeah, so a lot of those ones that I spoke about earlier, like Ticketco and Vimeo, will allow you to do those sort of hybrid models that would allow you to kind of do a physical ticket as well as a live stream ticket. I think it's going to be really interesting over the next 6 months to a year to see if people kind of adapt this. I know I've heard a lot of talk of them saying, oh yeah, we're going to go hybrid. Sounds a bit weird, but we're going to go hybrid. Next year we're going to do a mixture of the two. Whether that means that we're just going to do some online only and some physical only, or whether they're going to blend the two and create those two different experiences, I'm not sure. But those sort of live streaming platforms will allow you to be able to sell two sets of those tickets, do physical version and do live stream. So check out Ticketco as a good starting place.
Brilliant. That's it for my questions. So we can do our final wrap up. Do you want to do it? Your last wrap up?
I know, my last one. Somebody's here. Yeah, thanks, James. I just want to thank everyone very much for attending the session today. Like I said, we're going to send a full recording of the session. It will be with you early next week. We'll send the slides and any interesting links I think is suitable. We'll send them all over to you. If you have said you want to be contacted, we'll hopefully get in touch with you in the next week. And if you've got any questions, the lovely Phil will be able to answer any of those. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can find me at there's Phil. You can find me over at the team at COG if you want to reach out and connect. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you very, very soon.